How about now? I got sound now. Hey everybody, quick sound snafu there. Just want to welcome you to Wesley students online tonight. Thank you for hanging while I was trying to work out my sound issue. We rounded out last week with our Homeward Bound series. It was Mother's Day, so we had a pre-recorded video. If you want to watch that back again, you can go back onto YouTube. They're all there. All the stuff's there on YouTube for you to watch. But tonight we're starting something brand new. It's nothing like we've been doing. It's a series called How To, and we're going to talk about learning grown-up things before you grow up. So really helpful, super applicable. I had a lot of fun putting this week's message together with a lot of help from two really special people. If you were on our West Virginia mission trip last year, you know them both. I'm not going to spoil it for you. If you're watching on Instagram, a real quick thing for you guys, you're not going to be able to see the videos that I'm going to share from my computer. So if that's what you want to do, if you want to look at the videos that I'm sharing, you need to hop over to Facebook or YouTube. You can search Wesley Student Ministry or Wesley Church Evans, and you can get to both of those places. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet to our student ministry page, I would love it if you could take a minute and do that. That's going to help us if we get our subscribership up. That's going to help us do some really cool things. So a couple quick things that I need you to know. Number one is tonight, after the message, we're going to have an opportunity to jump into Zoom, into our breakouts. To get there, you want to go to our website, and there's an icon you can click to get into the Zoom breakouts tonight. The password is students. We're going to keep things really short tonight, really just an opportunity to debrief a little bit on the message. And then I have a special thing I'm going to ask everybody to do called a conversation guide. So Ellen and I have spent some time this week making up a conversation guide to go along with tonight's message. So parents, if you're watching or if you're watching on replay, this is an excellent opportunity for you and your student to spend some time together looking at something that's really important, talking about car maintenance and car knowledge, basic things that everybody ought to know about owning, operating, maintaining a vehicle. Middle school students, if you're watching, I know the temptation tonight is going to be to think that just because I'm not driving or because I don't have a car or because I'm younger than 16, I can tune out, and that's not true. There are a ton of times where you're going to be in the car with a parent, or you're going to be in the car with a friend or a grandparent or whatever, and knowing these handful of basic things is going to be able to make a huge difference if you ever get caught in a situation where your car isn't running, or you got a flat tire, or there's a simple thing that you know that can fix and help you get back on the road or get to safety and help. So middle school students, I hope that you're leaning in. It's going to be just a short while before you are behind the wheel in a car. And so we want to make sure that you are ready and prepared to be behind the wheel. And so this is a great opportunity for you to learn some things. Maybe you're a parent tonight. Thank you so much for watching with your student. This is going to be really great. So the conversation guide, here's the really cool thing. The conversation guide is located, I'm going to pull up a little screenshot for you. The conversation guide is on our website, and it's located right there at the very top. I have that circled in red. There is a circle in red, and you can click right on that link, and it'll take you right to the conversation guide. So you can do this on your phone. You can print it out. You can do whatever you need. But there's the conversation guide. And you're going to take that tonight or tomorrow. Let me transition out of that. Oops. There we go. We need to take that conversation guide out, and you can follow the instructions on the bottom. There is instructions on how to submit an entry for a grand prize, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But also we're going to pick some prizes every week for people who have submitted their conversation guide. So you have 24 hours to submit your conversation guide to be able to have a valid entry. Really cool part too. If you do it by yourself, that's okay. If you submit the guide by yourself. It's just this week it's going to be taking a picture and sending it in. But if you take the picture, if you submit your entry with a parent, you get your name entered into the hat twice. And so our grand prize, I'm going to pull up this video here in just a second and show you the grand prize. But our grand prize is a toolkit donated to us by Ace Hardware in Evans and Washington Road. Our good friends at Ace, we walked through the store and we took some things off the shelf and put into a toolkit that a student is going to be able to win. What an awesome thing to have while you're here. You can keep it in a car, you can keep it in your room, and then when you leave someday, you can take it with you, and that'll make you a really, really popular person when you're at college and somebody else's stuff breaks and you can fix it. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is we're going to offer to the winner, after this whole series is done, we're going to offer a free fall retreat. So really cool stuff. I'm going to show you what this toolkit looks like right here. All right, Shane, so number one, thank you so much for donating our toolkit for our how-to series. And so every week you're gonna get the opportunity to put your name in the hat to get the toolkit. So we're gonna open up the toolkit and see what is inside. Pretty cool. All right, go ahead.
So Aaron asked me a few things that we might be able to do for Wesley that would be nice for a student to have, maybe in their vehicle, maybe at their house. So if they can work on, if they ever have any issues they need to work on around the house or their car or stuff like that. So we'll start with that. So this is a level. So if you're a college student who's going off to live in a dorm and you're going to hang some pictures, you can use a level to make sure that that mirror or that picture of Aaron when you leave to go to college is nice and straight. And so we also have an adjustable wrench here that you can use if you're tightening up nuts or bolts. Any type of, you can use this at home or in your dorm room, and also even on your vehicle. We've also got a set of needle nose pliers. One of the things I like to do with Aaron is if he's got a nose hair that's really long, I can go there, I can pinch it, I can pinch it out.
Too bad.
These do come in handy if you've got to get into a small area. We also have a handy dandy Ace hammer that you can use. This is if you're obviously if you're nailing in something. This item is called a monkey hook, and it's used to hanging pictures, hanging really anything, and it's got, you can hang up to 20 pounds on it. We've got a handy dandy tape measure that you can use if you're measuring out. We've also got a set of Phillips head and flathead screwdrivers there.
And got some bigger ones in there too.
Yeah. So we've also got a pair of vice grips, which is a very handy tool that you can use when you really got to get a tight grip on something. So that's a vice grip. Also have Rain-X for your windshield. You can use that for you drivers. Tire gauge. You can check the pressure of your tires making a trip going back and forth home.
Super important to keep it in your car and your console.
It is.
Thank you, Shane. Come out and support Ace Hardware. They were generous enough to give us this toolkit. Great local business in our community, and I'm excited to see who gets to win this in a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right.
Huge thanks to our friends at Ace Hardware, specifically Shane, for his generosity, their generosity, putting that together for us. That's going to be a really cool prize. Even if you are not into tools or anything like that, just having this is going to be such a help for you. So I'm excited to give that away in a few weeks. I wanted to take a minute and tell you something pretty cool that happened on Friday. If you've been to our student ministry, you'll know that Jess and Will, they're going to have a baby. They had their baby on Friday. I want to pull up a picture for you. This is baby Ryland. who's watching right now. So Ryland, happy belated birthday to you. Super cute. Ryland Rembley Phillips, 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Already looks like a baseball player, and we know he's going to grow up to be a Georgia fan, even though his parents are Clemson fans. So happy birthday and congratulations. I'm going to take a minute and just tell you, remind you that after we get done tonight, there are Zoom Hangouts, 10-15 minutes, and then we're going to do our conversation guide. So tonight, again, new series, How To. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to talk about basic things that everybody needs to know before you leave the house, how to learn grown-up things before you actually grow up. So tonight's basic car and auto knowledge and maintenance. And we're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about cooking and laundry and healthy eating the week after that. And then we're going to talk about interview skills, whether that's for a part-time job or for college. And then finally, we're going to talk about personal protection and security. Like if you find yourself alone and you're walking in Augusta at night, we want to make sure that you know some things so that you can be protected and that you can get to safety and make sure you're aware of your surroundings. So those are all things we're going to talk about and tackle in the series. Make sure you get your conversation guides in tomorrow. We're going to play a quick bumper video, and then we're going to get right into it. Okay, welcome everybody. This is our first Sunday in our how-to series, and we have Paul Palmer, resident knowledge of little of a lot of things, and Roger Yancey, resident knowledge of a lot of things and a lot of stuff. So Roger, he does a lot of our maintenance on our church vehicles, and we need somebody to help him kind of roll through some things, and who better than Paul Palmer to help him kind of take us through what it means to have some basic car knowledge. And so we're going to get started. You guys got a couple things you're going to tell us, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just going to go through some basics, things to look for when you're driving your vehicle around town, things to keep an eye on that if you don't keep an eye on them could leave you stranded or could cost you or your parents a lot of money if you let them go too long and they get too bad. So we'll step inside the cockpit here and take a look at some of the lights, and then we'll pop the hood and check on some stuff under there.
So when you turn your ignition on, you're going to see dash lights, idiot lights come up. In this case, it's seat belt, and just let you know the door ajar because the door is open. And when you crank it up, everything should go out. Of course, the door ajar light's not going to go out because the door is open. And over here, I actually have a problem with this car right now. The ABS light is on, and that's anti-skid braking system, anti-lock braking system. So I have to go get that fixed. That recently came on. I haven't dealt with it yet. So what the anti-lock braking system does is if you hit your brakes in the panic mode and you actually lock up, they stop and release and stop and release and stop and release like a dozen times a second. It's just like a blur, but it allows you to steer while you're stopping. Because if you lock up and you're steering, then your steering doesn't work because you just you skid. So the point is, when you have lights that stay on after they should not stay on, don't ignore them. Go deal with them. You can go to a service garage, and sometimes places like AutoZone or Advance Auto, those places will put a diagnostic tool on the car and let you know what that problem is, whether it's serious or not serious. So don't ignore engine trouble lights or other issues that pop up on your dash.
All right, good stuff, good information, good things to know. All right, we're gonna pop the hood now and then we'll check out what's going on underneath there.
Where do you go to pop the hood?
So every car today has got a release lever in here. It's got the hood symbol on it. See the hood up, you pop that and that releases your hood. Then you go around and there's typically another latch right under the top of the hood.
All right, so it was this little latch here is
Yeah,
what you felt, and
exactly.
you just kind of feel it through
You kind of
the
got to
opening.
go stick your fingers in there, and you'll or take a look under here, and you'll find another thing that finally releases the hood latch, and then you're up and open.
So this car is equipped with these almost like a spring type mechanism here that holds the hood up. Some of the cars, there's like a little bar that's normally right here, and you'll find a hole where the bar goes, and the bar will hold the hood up. So there's something on every car that will help hold the hood up, so when you're underneath there working, looking at stuff, it doesn't fall on your head. All right, so what are the important fluids and the ways that we check the important fluids here?
Probably
under
the
hood?
most important thing under the hood of a car is engine oil. And they all have a dipstick, and it says engine oil on it, or it'll have some indicator. It may say something like this on it. So the intent is, you pull that out, and there'll be a level indicator on there, and it'll give you a safe range. And I just started this engine, so it's oil's all over the place. But if I had wiped this off, I would find oil down here in the safe range, and that's what you want to be looking at. And if it's too low, then you add oil. And you'll probably have a sticker inside your car that says when the next oil change is due.
All right, so that's how you check the oil, and if you figure out you need to add oil, how do you know what kind of oil to add, and where do you add it?
Virtually every car today, at the place where you put the oil in the engine, it'll tell you right there. It says engine oil, and it gives you an SAE number, Society of Automotive Engineers, what that stands for, and this one says 5W-30, and that's an indicator of the viscosity and the weight of the engine oil. And if you don't know, you can go to Jiffy Lube, or you can go to AutoZone or Advance and walk in, and they'll come out and they'll help you with that, and they'll sell you the right oil. But if you want to do it yourself, or read the owner's manual, should be in the glove box of the car, but it'll tell you, either the engine will tell you or that manual will tell you, here's what you need to put in there. And that, you take off that cap, and you'll want to have a funnel so you don't make a mess all over your engine, and you pour a quart of oil in there or whatever you need. Once you pour that in, then you check this again, maybe let it have a few minutes to run down and settle out. Check this again and see if it came up to the right level on the bottom of that stick.
Good stuff, good stuff. Besides the engine oil, what other things do we need to keep an eye on?
The coolant, liquid cooled engines, the coolant, there will be a storage bottle, like an expansion bottle. As the engine antifreeze water heats up, it expands and it comes up in this bottle. And then when it cools, it goes back out of the bottle and back into the radiator. So it says engine coolant. So that is typically a mix of antifreeze and water. Typically it's 50% water and 50% antifreeze. So it's kind of a reservoir supply here, and you check the level here. Your radiator also has a cap, but typically you don't need to mess with that anymore. You don't ever want to mess with it when it's hot. If your engine's hot, your radiator's hot, you don't want to take this off of here because it's pressurized and it can burn you and blast hot water across the engine, and you just don't want to mess with that when it's hot. You shouldn't have to mess with this hardly at all because you can do everything you need to do right here.
Good. How about brake fluid? Brake fluid, kind of important. You want to be able to stop your car.
It is. This is a reservoir for brake fluid. And you can see the liquid level in here. And there'll be an indicator on this translucent bottle that says, you know, be in this range. It's kind of hard to read sometimes, but I'm nearly full, so I'm in good shape here. That hardly ever needs attention, but it's something that you want to glance at on a periodic basis. If you take your car into Jiffy Lube or a place like that, that's something they'll check, and they'll tell you if you need help, or you can do it yourself.
I know from time to time, if you're driving along, sometimes things will squeal or grind. How do you know if a squealing noise might indicate that you need to change something or get something looked at, like maybe a belt or something like that?
Yeah, sometimes that's kind of hard to figure out. Yeah. If you hear a screeching or a squealing or something under the hood, unless it's really obvious, and it's not always obvious for sure, but that's when you need to go find some professional help. If you're really adept at this sort of thing, or your dad is, or somebody else in your family is, that's fine. Most of us aren't, and the cars get so complicated these days that there's less and less that most of us can do. Okay. So if it's making noise you don't understand, go have a professional have a listen and figure that out for you.
Good advice.
One more thing here, the windshield washer fluid, they're all well marked. So the only thing that goes in here is the soapy water antifreeze mix that you squirt up on your windshield if you need to rinse off. So always keep that full or relatively full. You can buy windshield washer fluid anywhere, grocery store, Walmart, auto places, $3 for a gallon. Just keep some at the house and top that thing off every now and then.
Good stuff, good advice.
What about jumping a battery?
Yeah. From time to time, somebody may leave their lights on, may leave a dome light on or something, runs the battery down. You come back out from whatever you were doing, you try to crank it up and you get the or it just clicks. Good idea to carry around some jumper cables, but you got to know how to use them. You want to make sure that you hook them up right.
I have jumper cables in the trunk. Should I get those and we'll take a look and show what that's all about?
Let's hook those up.
All right. These are good things to have. I use them far more helping other people than I do for myself. But you can't help anybody and you can't help yourself if you don't have them. So they're not expensive. Another thing you can get at Walmart or get at any AutoZone, Advance, O'Reilly, those kinds of places. And the purpose is if the battery in your car is dead, won't crank the engine. Sometimes you get in and you get surprised because it goes click, 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 chatter, chatter, and it's just not going to do the job. So if your car battery is dead and you've got a friend or another family car or whatever, you pull it up close enough to get within this length of distance between the batteries in the two vehicles, because we're going to be putting these on a hot battery and the other end on the dead battery. So the typical sequence here is red on the good battery that you're going to jump from. So let's assume that already happened. And then red to the dead battery, which in this case we're going to call this one dead. Then black to the ground on the hot battery. And then you take ground to a ground lug, typically away from the battery. Most of the recommendations are don't ground back to the battery. You want to get away from the battery in case there's a spark. You don't want that spark near the battery. So most cars today have a lug just for that purpose. I don't see it on this car, so I'm going to go to this spot right here, which is really heavy and would be a good ground position. So now if we were hooked to a good battery in another vehicle, this car would crank. That's the plan.
All right, how about tires? Tires are kind of important on a vehicle. What are some of the important things to keep an eye on with your tires? Because they're going to wear out over time.
How about if I crank a tire out where we can stick a pin?
All right, sounds good. All right, so tires are another important part of the car. Every tire tread pattern may look a little different, but they've all got tread with these deep grooves in there help you grip the road in all kind of different conditions, sand, water, whatever the case might be that you're trying to drive through. But it's real important to keep an eye on these grooves to make sure that this tread isn't excessively worn. And one old trick that they tell you is to take a penny, and you see it's got Abraham Lincoln on there, and you stick the penny down in the groove, upside down. Abraham goes kind of head first down in the groove, and if the tire groove doesn't come up over his head, then you need to go get some new tires. So let's check this out. So you can see there, part of Abe's, if I can get his name right, part of Mr. Lincoln's head there is covered with the tread. So the depth of the tread is good. Also, you kind of look at the wear of the tread. It should be kind of even. If you got it bald on one side or bald in the middle and you still got tread in other places, maybe a problem with either the tire pressure being too high or too low, or there may be some kind of problem with the alignment that you need to go in and get a professional to take a look at and see if they can get it corrected for you.
What about rotating the tires, Mr. Palmer?
All right, so rotating your tires is basically, you kind of time it with maybe every other oil change, is what I typically do. Is you'll take the tires from one position of the vehicle and rotate them, like the front tire here would rotate with the back tire. Some folks crisscross. It really depends on the type of tire that it is. Some of them have real unique patterns, like on my truck, it goes on one side or the other. So you just rotate it from one spot to the other. That way, if there is a little bit of something that's off with the suspension, you kind of compensate for it and you don't excessively wear your tire. Everything kind of evens out.
Another thing is the tire pressure, which is equally as important, and it'll make the tires last longer. I may have a tire gauge in here. If I don't, I'm going to go get one and show you something else that's important to. Here we go. So, you know, $2 or $3, available anywhere, online, Walmart, any of the auto places I told you about. And keep one in your car or keep one in your house and where you know where it is, and don't ignore these. Ultimately, air will leak out of tires. It doesn't stay in there forever. So this shows that I've got 35 pounds in there, which is good. And there's a number on the sidewall of the tire that says PSI max. That's pounds per square inch maximum cold. You don't want to do it after you just drove your car and got the tires heated up. But you want to know what the cold pressure is. And these tires say 36 pounds max. So I stay close to that max. And so that's why it read 35 just now. So the better attention you pay to tire pressure, the longer your tires are going to last, the safer you're going to be, and the better gas mileage you're going to get. Because a tighter tire with more air pressure rolls easier and more efficiently than a soft tire with low pressure. We'll take a look at spare tire so you know where the tire and the jack is. Yep. Cars are going to be different, but this one has what I call a toy spare, and it's down under here. So you can still have some usable trunk space. So these tires are smaller than the tires the 4 tires that are on the car right now, and they're only for wanting to get you from a flat tire to a tire shop. That's all it's for. There's a statement on there somewhere that says don't drive it more than 50 miles. It's a good thing to check the pressure on because it's in the trunk of your car or under your car and you forget about it. So you might be checking the 4 tires that are on the ground, but you forget to check the pressure in this one. Well, if you have a flat spare is not going to get you anywhere. So when you're occasionally, maybe not every time you check the rest of them, but occasionally put a gauge on this tire and make sure it's going to help you when you need help. Typically, the jack is going to be with it or under it, and that's the case here. So if you had to use it, you go after it. been a long time since that came out of there. I'm not sure it ever came out of there. And there will be a tire tool with it to crank the lug nuts off the car. And there's instructions. If you do this, you're not going to remember this every time, but when you pull the cover off of that tire and you find out where this thing is, there's instructions that tells you how to do this. It's not something you're going to do often enough to remember, so you need to read that and do this properly. It tells you exactly where to put this. In this case, there's a spot under here, and you crank this up. This is called a scissors jack. You crank it up, and it's going to raise this up to the point that it's going to lift your car. And it's got a certain spot under here that it needs to attach to, and you lift your car. You should also, and the directions will probably tell you, you want to go to another place on the car. You set the brake, go to another place, and block a tire just in case you're not on level ground. Because last thing you want to have happen is this thing to roll while you got one wheel in the air. So to get to the lug nuts, typically, sometimes you may have to go uncover them. That's what this is for. They're really, really tight. You really got to crank on them, but you can get them off of there. I'm not going to go through all that today, but once you are in the air, break these loose, take this one off, put that one on, put these lug nuts back on, and let the jack down and put everything away and go get your tire fixed. It's a fair amount of work. If you're not in a place where, if you're not a AAA member and you can't call a service truck and you got to do it yourself, you need to know how to do it yourself. It won't happen often, it may never happen, but it's certainly a good thing to know. Yep. Well, I would say the jumper cables are high on that list. If you ever did have to do the spare tire, let me show you another thing I keep in this car. I call this a star wrench, and I keep one of these in each of my vehicles because cranking on this to break one of these loose with two hands is a lot easier and probably safer than the wrench that the car manufacturer gave you. This will work. To me, this works better.
All right. So the better wrench, the jumper cables, the tire pressure gauge that we used earlier, those are just a few of the basic things you want to make sure you keep in your car.
Let me show you what else I have in here, just by chance. We're talking about basic tools, so this is what I keep in here just for that purpose, basic tools. So, pair of pliers, a Phillips screwdriver, a straight screwdriver, adjustable wrench, and a set of hex wrenches or Allen wrenches. And that'll solve a lot of problems, just having those things. Something as simple as the pliers or the screwdrivers for something as simple as a hose clamp or a hose connection, possibly. You might not be able to get to it anyway, but these give you a chance to maybe solve your own problem. Just good things to have, and if you don't use them on your car, you may be in a situation where you're someplace where you need some basic tools, and that's a good starter right there.
I think one of the important things you can do is know your particular vehicle. Every truck, every car is a little bit different. We've kind of gone through some basics on a car here today, and they're all sort of similar, but everything is a little bit unique. So pop the hood, spend a little bit of time looking under there, understanding what you're looking at. Know where your spare is. where your jack is because it may not be in the same location it is on this sedan. It may be different. So learn your vehicle particulars before you go off and hit the road.
And pay attention to the gauges on the dash. You know, some cars have more gauges than others. Temperature gauge, oil pressure gauge, probably the most important. You know, they show a normal range on them. If it gets out of that normal range, you need to go take care of it and just don't ignore it for the life of your car and for your own safety.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you both for your time and for your wisdom and your knowledge. And I know this is going to be beneficial to everybody who watches it.
All right.
Cool.
Cool.
Hey students, thanks so much for joining us tonight for our Wesley Students Online Experience. I just want to remind you to make sure that you follow our Instagram right here, and then check out our YouTube channel up here so you can get updated information and content. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next Sunday.